Hi guys, I've really been enjoying listening to you ladies. Emily and Kelly, yesterday evening before I went to bed, I listened to what you guys were sharing, and my heart just agreed with what you said, and my heart was just rejoicing as you guys talked. And so thank you so much for the way that you blessed me with what you shared. And Joss, this afternoon too, listening to you sharing. I love what you said. So much of what you say really resonates with me and my heart. I wrote a couple things down that you said. You said that you had to die to a life revolving around yourself and your feelings. And I feel that that is so much me too. I'm always maybe processing how I feel about things, and then that has so much, to an extent, guided how I live life. And just quickly sharing an example, for a time there was something that I really didn't enjoy doing, and every time we went to do that, I would just grumble within myself because I didn't want to be part of that. And all of a sudden, somebody just, I think without knowing it, spoke into that part of my life and reminded me the reasons for some of the things we do. And the other day, when I had to do that thing again that I didn't want to do, I just reminded myself of the reasons why I was doing those things. And I just said them over and over to myself, and they actually, the truth of why I was doing this thing took away my feelings of complaint and probably like a self-centeredness, because I could see the bigger picture. And so I think it's very important for us to speak truth into our life so that our feelings can't control just how we act or react to things. And I loved what you said about, not when we mess up, not having hours or days of introspection and then shame as we see that we have fallen short, but just coming to the cross and allowing Jesus to wash us of our sin. And I loved what you said, Joss, about being a repeat visitor to the cross of Christ. That makes me think of what the gospel has done for me. And I loved that question. In fact, I love that the teaching usually ends with a question, because it actually has caused me to think on those kinds of things a lot, and it's just very good for my mind. And so what has the gospel done for me? I'm going to read 2 Corinthians 1 verse 10, and it's Paul talking, and he says in the verse previous, a reminder not to trust in ourselves, but in God who raises the dead. And then verse 10, who delivered us from so great a death, and does deliver us, in whom we trust that he will still deliver us. And I really see the three tenses there, past, present, and future. He did deliver me from so great a death, the second death, eternal death. He does deliver me daily. Every time I look at him, he brings me to a deliverance that is kind of a constant deliverance as we rest in him and feed on him. And then in whom we trust that he will still deliver us. As I look at my future, however long I have on this earth, I trust God that he will continue to do this work in me. And then of course he will give us that final deliverance when we are glorified with him in our final redemption, I guess, when we go see Jesus. And what the gospel has done for me is it has saved me from myself. I love perfection. Almost everything I do, I want to do perfectly. I want everything done perfectly. And I consistently and continually fall short. And the people around me fall short. And there is one who has never fallen short, and that is Jesus Christ. And so by hearing the message of the good news of Jesus Christ, which is the gospel, the plan of salvation, the rescue or the deliverance that Jesus has given and does give. Rescues me from my failures and other people's failures to satisfy or to meet the standard, because he has met that standard for all of us. And so not only does it help me to find rest for myself, it also helps me to have grace for the people around me. And that's why I love that verse I shared with you so much, 2 Corinthians 1 verse 10, because where I still need to grow in grace, I know that he will continue to be my deliverance. He will continue to help me to grow in grace as I lean more and more heavily into him. And so the gospel has really just given me a hope. It has given me a hope that is sure and certain and will not disappoint, which I just absolutely love. The gospel has shown me love. Not only God's love for me, but God's love for all. And it helps me to love more like Christ loves when I look at the people around me. And I feel like I just need a lot of growth in this still, but I'm so thankful for what God has already done. I want to share a song with you guys. It's called I Run to Christ, and I think it's just very beautiful. It says, I run to Christ when chased by fear and find a refuge sure. Believe in me, his voice I hear, his words and wounds secure. I run to Christ when torn by grief and find abundant grace, or abundant peace. I too had tears, he gently speaks, thus joy and sorrow meet. I run to Christ when worn by life and find my soul refreshed. Come unto me, he calls through strife, fatigue gives way to rest. I run to Christ when vexed by hell and find a mighty arm. The devil flees, the scriptures tell, he roars but cannot harm. I run to Christ when stalked by sin and find a sure escape. Deliver me, I cry to him, temptation yields to grace. I run to Christ when plagued by shame and find my one defense. I bore God's wrath, he pleads my case, my advocate and friend. That song is again just a beautiful expression of words that I would want to share but wouldn't have the gift to write, and someone has written them down, and it just really blessed me today when I found that song. So Sylvia, one more thing, what you shared about all sin separating us from God. I have just been reminded recently again, like sin is death. The punishment for sin is death. And you can't be a little bit dead. You're either fully, completely dead, or you are alive. And sin brings with it death. The gospel brings life. And same as if you have sin, if you've fallen short, which we all have, we are dead apart from Christ. When we are in Christ, you can't just be a little bit alive. You're either alive or you're not alive. And so I love that that the gospel has I guess, secured life for us, where before we were dead in our trespasses and sins, we now have received abundant life.